DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
More rugby talk. Richard Turner, Pod Turner, former All Black, stalwart of North Harbour, and with a big interest in the Blues as well, joins us for the first time on the podcast, on the show. This is great. Warm welcome, mate.
Yeah, mate, good to be here.
Yep. Yeah, thank you so much.
Up and running and going well, obviously.
Yeah, we're loving every second of it, mate. Up to 5,000 subscribers already. So if you can help us out, click the subscribe button. It does. Now, we've got three different topics to talk about. I want to talk about your up and coming bolters, some players that have caught your eye. We'll park that one. I also want to talk about the fact that there are 4 Aussie teams in the top 6 for the first time ever, and what the heck does that all mean? But let's start with what we saw on Saturday night, because it is the biggest talking point out of Super Rugby Round 6, isn't it? The Crusaders, who just emphatically thumped the Blues on their own patch. And is this a Blues side now that can recover from that, recover from a 1-5 start to still make a statement and be something come playoffs in this competition?
Short answer to that, Marty, is yes, they can. I think the weekend might be the kick up the backside they need. Your summation was spot on. They got dealt to on the weekend. And if you go looking for reasons why, 1-5 from the season, I think they've just, it's been an interesting season. There's been a lot of talk about the style of rugby that we're seeing at the moment. We're talking a lot more about time of ball and play,
yes,
all that sort of thing. And look, I went through the Blues results, and yeah, they're very much. Ironically, up until Saturday, they very much struggled in the second half of matches. So, maybe they've just taken a little bit longer to adjust to the way the game's been played than other teams. Their second half points production's been woeful, and you're thinking, is that a direct result of the fact that the game's played at a greater pace, the ball's in play more, so it's physically more draining. But as I say, at the weekend they scored the most points they have, the second most points they have in the second half this season. So, are they making the right adjustments? Yes. There's obviously a bit more going on in there that we don't know. And look, it's always tough. It's a great competition this year. And you alluded to the strength of the Aussie sides this year. So it was always going to be tough for them to repeat the dominance of last season. But coming back to your original question, yeah, look, you look at their home run. They've got 7 games to go. Again, if you're looking at the matches they've played against the matches they've got coming up, it's fair to say that they've got a slightly easier run home. So the opportunity to pick up points and they were all but for a conversion in that Chiefs game.
They were.
They were 2 points away from sitting one off the playoff spot. So. We've got plenty ahead of them. Certainly for diehard Blues fans, it's not season over. But yeah, they've certainly got a fair bit of work to do in that, in terms of trying to turn their season around.
Paul, just in terms of the style that they're playing, we saw last year Vern Cotter introduced a really basic style, and it was so effective, wasn't it? It was just hard out. They compacted the field, they went through you, they made no excuses or actually pretense to do anything else. We're used to the Blues being very expansive, but they were deliberate and they were methodical about the way that they did it. I suppose, if I've got one thing that I've really criticised them heavily for over the last few weeks is they've just lost their set piece. And that's just, I'm not talking just lineouts. Against the Highlanders, they botched lineouts. Against the Brumbies, it was a scrum at the end of the game. There were kickoffs that they just couldn't get their head around this time. These are the most basic fundamental things. And when you saw Vern Cotter on the TV just after half time, and what a brilliant piece of television that was when he was talking about accuracy, he was talking about energy, he was talking about individual errors, and it just started all over again. And, I just wonder why these pieces, I know they've got a lot of injuries, but there's a lot of experienced players. Those are jigsaw bits that aren't they? That set pieces, it's like getting a throw in right in football. It's like the most basic thing there is, kicking it, and that's what they're not doing. If you start there for a start.
Yeah, look, as much as we say that the games, the games change, we've had some new law introductions in some new variations that are speeding the game up. The basics are still the same. And the old adage, rugby is a simple game. It always has been a simple game, and it always will be a simple game. And if you're going to be successful, you've got to do those simple things well. And every team, the success of every team is based around your set piece, because that's where you get to compete for the ball.
Yes.
If you're not getting that right, you're not getting the ball. If you haven't got the ball, then you're on the back foot. So, look, I thought that was a little bit of a classic summation of the Blues season. Very Collins talking about how they need to get better in the Crusaders
score.
Or a try in the middle of the conversation.
Crazy, wasn't it? Yeah.
But he's. You come back to the way they played last year, and it was brutal, and it was successful, and maybe they've lost a bit of their cattle, so they might not have the resource there in terms of the players that they want, the players that they need. But I also think that other teams have sat down and again allude back to the way the game's been playing now, and it's that style of play is seemingly it's a struggle for them, and it's not the way that they're going to win games this season.
You saw it in the very first game. The Chiefs sort of matched them with that, and I just wonder whether that was such a big dent in the confidence, because that second half the Chiefs really muscled up and kind of out-bluesed the Blues. And and then it compounds, doesn't it? I mean, you talk about that Chiefs game back in Hamilton where they were so close, but this is a real slap this time, because the Crusaders,
that's right.
They were so physical with them and giving it all of this and rubbing the hair and making those kind of, which I don't know what, but I know that on the field when somebody's doing that to me, I mean, that just means that they're taking the piddle a little bit about it as well, aren't they? And that's an attitude thing, is what it is.
There's an old adage, when a side's down and it's luck, you
kick them hard, mate.
And you're into them, you twist them knife, right?
Yeah, of course you do.
That was classic Crusaders, classic professional rugby stuff.
Yes.
They were in their faces.
Yeah.
They were giving it to them because they knew that they were a side down on their confidence, and they were going to let them know it, and they were going to rub it in. And look, and I think
that's
for the
game.
Crusaders as well. It was they're probably enjoying the fact that they're having a more successful season like that last week.
We all did it to them.
Last year they're making the
mate,
most.
This is what happens. You win the title 7 times in a row. The moment you turn in a shite season like last year, we all jumped on the Crusaders. Of course, that's what professional sport is about. I just thought it was quite significant. I thought that was going on though, and and a number of players were doing it, and I think that's again just to get inside the head. So let's pivot now into the Australian teams. As I said, like when you look at that points table, I mean, Joe Schmidt, everyone connected with Australian rugby, and this is the top brass, the fish heads as well, would be looked at. You couldn't ask for this. If you're Australia, gearing up for the Lions tour, you want renewed interest in the competition. Well, there we go. All our 4 teams are in the playoffs at the moment, right after 6 rounds.
Yep. Oh, look, it couldn't get any better for them. But I also probably more by design than anything that they did. With the. With
they've had good draws.
Coming down to, I think that they've got it right in the fact that they've got 4 teams now. So they always struggled with 5 teams in terms of they've got a limited pool of talent over there, and that talent distributed across 5 teams is always a struggle. So now we see that talent come back and concentrated into 4 teams, and spread across the seemingly evenly across their 4 teams. They've seen the results of it. Again, the shift in the pattern of the game this season is probably better suited to the way they like to play the game, and where their strengths in the game are. So, you're right. Off the back of what needs to be a very big season for Australian rugby, both on the field and off the field, they're certainly getting it right early in the season.
Do you like the way that the points table is at the moment? Do you think that's the actual natural order? You got the Reds in 3rd, New South Wales, who beat the Brumbies and played pretty well at the Brumbies, and then the Force, who have had a couple of big wins. But do you think that's the natural order of those teams? I think round 9 the Reds play the Brumbies, and obviously that'll sort it out. But at the moment, Reds, New South Wales, Brumbies in that order.
Look, I think the Brumbies are probably if they've been honest with themselves, they're probably underperforming, in terms of where they should be. So maybe, but look, will they have all their teams in the playoffs? I don't think so, because they get I look through the draw for the remaining games of the season, and then they've really got some tough matchups. They play the New Zealand teams a lot more in the second half of this tournament. But look, will they have? They'll have at least 2 teams. They should have 3 probably. It would be the ultimate if they manage to get 4. I think that's going to be tough. But it's they certainly are in the best position to storm the playoffs in terms of having the most teams they've had for a while in there.
Again, another significant thing is that they're winning in New Zealand, and that there were years where that didn't happen. I think there were 3 or 4 seasons where that hadn't happened. You get the Brumbies coming and beating the Blues, and that was a tough-ass win for the Reds, who I thought were really good against the Highlanders. Yeah,
look, we alluded to it. If you're going to be successful in this competition, you got to do the simple things. You got to do your set pieces right, and the Reds are looking a pretty well drilled team at the moment. Again, coming back to having more talent in their teams, they've recruited well, and they're putting results out on the field. And we all know in professional sport, in any sport, their confidence and succession breeds confidence, and they're all Aussie teams at the moment are seemingly thriving on that.
Yeah, I know. I just look at that points table and I just keep looking at it thinking, what? Is he serious?
Well, it's funny, we, as you say, we used to once upon a time, come over here and all the discussion would be like, it's been, 3 years since they last won. It's been how many games since they last beat the New Zealand team in New Zealand, and that's seemingly all been flushed away now. Yeah. And I don't care what anyone says, I think it plays, all those sort of things do play on the back of your mind. As soon as that monk is off your back,
no one's talking about it anymore. That's what happens. That's it.
Yep.
All right, final topic then. Just some players that, you've obviously watched a hell of a lot of it over the last few weeks, like we all have, but I'm just really interested
to know. My life reminds me.
Well, this is the thing, mate. Then you had the NRL trip. Then at 8 o'clock last night, I got an F1 GP that I've got switched on in bed.
That was
watching
me.
it as well.
We went out for dinner last night, and even my kids were like, "Come on, Dad, we've got to get back for the F1." So and I'll tell you another sport I'm watching a lot of, Marty, is football.
Right.
Both my kids are
into Auckland FC.
Auckland FC fans. There
you go.
They're dragging me along, and when I say dragging me along, I'm quite happy to go because that's
a great day out, isn't it?
For the sporting environment in Auckland, haven't they?
Yeah, look, I'm one of those people. There was Speedway on in the weekend. Last round. Supposedly last round it was. I'm one of those people that. I hope they all succeed, man. I want the Warriors to sell out. I want Auckland FC to sell out. I want the Blues to get great crowds. I want the NPC to get great crowds. I wish there was more going to see the women play as well. But if you provide all these entertainment options and they're great options, well, that's just better. A big city like this needs it. All right. So just a couple of names. Show me a couple of names that you've actually seen so far in Super Rugby.
Forefront of mine, I'm really liking that Ioane Moananu from the Crusaders. He just exactly. Just looked at him and went, man, if he can keep improving, he's obviously gone into that Crusaders environment. This is it's seemingly getting a full season, just going gangbusters, and I like everything about him. The other guys that are exciting, and again, just the way the game's being played. Obviously, the outside back standing out. Caleb Tangitau, Kyle Preston, the halfback from the Crusaders, another one. Leroy Carter for the Chiefs. I think we're seeing a lot of the guys that are new into this professional environment really thriving in terms of the style of rugby that we're seeing at the moment. So look, lots of young players getting good opportunities, taking the most of the put my Hawke's Bay hat on, loving what Harry Godfrey's been doing.
Yeah, man. He's got a big future, mate. He's got a massive future there, boy.
The Blues, look, throw out a couple of names from the Blues. Shea Park. Zavi Taili, he's a young guy.
Yeah, real good prospect.
He's seemingly got a bit of pressure on him in terms of expectation, but went out there in his first match for the Blues and performed admirably. Seems to be a talent for the future. And then I can't go past certainly not a rookie, certainly not a young player, but a guy that's been around for a while. But Duplessis Karifi.
Yep.
If he's not an All Black at some stage this year, it's there's something terribly.
He's
wrong.
I've got him and Godfrey already earmarked for that end of year tour. Quinn Tupaia coming back. I know he's not a newbie, but it feels like him. Watching him, Shelfoon, I think has been brilliant, hasn't he?
Look, and that's the thing. You just the names keep coming.
It's great, isn't it? But this is what we want. Mate, if you're Jamie Joseph, if I'm ringing Jamie this week, I'm saying, Jamie, I know it's just a suggestion, but would you bring him back to 12? Just as would you bring him back?
Yeah, exactly right.
He's playing out of his brain. Yeah.
Yep, dead right. Although you go, okay, is the versatility a feather in his cap and an opportunity for him to get in that environment? Because look, I think he's one of these guys that gets in that environment.
He will thrive in that environment. The names that you're suggesting as well. This is it. I mean, if I'm Razor, you get a full notepad every week of just possibilities. Yeah.
And look at that, and that's what we need. It's exciting when there's competition for places. We've got. There's certainly, as I say, we've got some concerns around our midfield depth, but that as I say, that as this competition progresses, that seems to be easing, and we seem to be building good depth in terms of competition in other positions. So long may it continue.
Always good to catch up, mate. Brilliant.
Cheers, man.
This is the DSPN.